This is the Ohio AgNet from the voice you know at the News You Trust studios, sponsored by BASF and Zidua, the most trusted name in herbicides, providing Ohio soybean and corn acres with up to 2 weeks more residual activity and broad-spectrum weed control. I'm Ty Higgins. Get ready to see the future of farming. Join Ag Revolution for the Ohio Massey Ferguson Roadshow, April 9th at the Hancock County Fairgrounds in Findlay. Learn more and RSVP at agrev.com. There's a new Ohio AgNet podcast out today. Ohio corn yields are climbing while nitrogen rates are holding steady, and starting farm succession planning 5 to 10 years out. This morning's news feed brought to you by Tempty, now factory direct in Sydney. From trailer sales to parts and trailer service, the Tempty team is ready to keep you moving. Stop in today or call 326-206-2062. New and now at ohioagnet.com, episode 438 of our podcast, powered by Ohio Corn and Wheat. I talked spring crop management with Beck's Hybrids agronomist Luke Schulte and Mike Hannawald. Schulte discussed how farmers can make smart decisions on corn pops this planting season.
Yeah, in the past, for the most part, we allowed, what we saw out in the field, ear flex and productivity to kind of dictate what we felt like were the best populations when it comes to return on investment. But our research here and that we've started in the last several years is around root architecture. And what we found through some of our dealer plots, things like that, we found that the more expansive the root system is, we call it horizontal or balanced, the more it actually favors planting less.
Plus, Joel Penorwood visits with Michael Keith from K9 and Ken Brands about Kalmbach Feed's pet food division.
We're not looking at it as a short-term business proposition. Kalmbach's, generational business. We're currently in the third generation, and this pet food segment will definitely pass down to the fourth and fifth generations. And so we're in it for the long haul and really looking to make this a success. And we continue to build other pet food facilities as we need them across the nation to support this growth and endeavor. Even though today we're starting, this is week number 1, and it's exciting. The response here is phenomenal. We've got a good product, sound nutrition at a great price, and we're bringing some innovations to the feed and farm retailers that they haven't had the ability to get. And we think differently. A lot of pet food goes through distribution phases. So it goes from the manufacturer to a distributor to the retailer. And we just cut out the distributor. Like, we're already going with other brands. Let's put these products, let's cut out a margin step to help deliver common sense value to the end consumer and not be wasteful of that money in the supply chain.
Then Paul Poisture from Nutrien discusses how global factors are impacting farmers right here in Ohio from a fertilizer standpoint.
There is no question prices are at a very high point, not just here in Ohio, across the country, especially now when we're going into planting season. What happens in one part of the fertilizer industry globally impacts Ohio growers. It's just the nature of it. So the issue, you brought up the war in Iran and the cutting off of nearly 20% of the global supply. That has, as we've seen, that has an immediate impact on farmers right here in Ohio. So we need to look at, can we increase supply, and what does that look like? It's not an easy and quick fix. For example, if we were to put online new fertilizer production plants, those take years to build, to site, and get into the marketplace. So a lot of those issues are being looked at federally. So we're going to have to continue to follow those. Growers here in Ohio are under pressure, not just from input costs, but continued low commodity prices as well. And to the extent that can be addressed, that's a big part of this.
Listen or watch the new Ohio AgNet podcast online now at ohioagnet.com, powered by Ohio Corn and Wheat. Time to get a check of the forecast with Ryan Martin, brought to you by Seed Consultants, simply better performance, online at seedconsultants.com.
We had a little moisture and cloud cover come in overnight last night in northern tier counties of Ohio. Through the day today, I think the clouds are going to be staying in a large part of the state, and cold air is here, but we don't see an additional huge amount of precipitation. High pressure settles in through the day tomorrow right over Lake Michigan. That'll give us, I think, a better chance of sunshine here, but it still means it is chilly. Temperatures will start to moderate a little bit on Wednesday. In that temperature moderation, I think we see a good deal of sunshine through the day. Watching a frontal boundary come together to our west and north northwest. That front takes its own sweet time moving southward, so I think rains to start Thursday, midday and afternoon in northwest Ohio, and then sag southward through the rest of the state through Friday, through Saturday, and we're finally dry again on Sunday. Combined over the multi-day stretch, everybody's got a chance for a 1/4 to 1 inch of precipitation. Early next week, we get a little more active. I'm Ryan Martin.
Thank you very much, Ryan. Ohio corn yields are climbing, but optimal nitrogen rates are holding steady. Joel Penorwood has that story.
In the latest Corn to Go newsletter from Ohio State University Extension, the summary of which online at ohioagnet.com, they've looked at more than 400 nitrogen trials across the state dating back to the 1970s. Over that time, yields jumped more than 50% from about 132 bushels per acre to around 200. But the amount of nitrogen needed to maximize those yields has stayed relatively flat. Researchers say modern hybrids simply getting more efficient, producing more grain per pound of nitrogen. Even zero nitrogen plots saw steady yield gains, pointing to improvements in genetics and management. Some nuances to that, though. Corn following soybeans is seeing a slight uptick in nitrogen needs, but overall increases are modest, about a pound per acre per year. The takeaway is higher yields don't automatically mean higher nitrogen rates, and with tighter margins, finding that sweet spot for return on nitrogen is more important than ever. You can find out more in the latest Corn to Go newsletter online at ohioagnet.com today. I'm Joel Penorwood reporting.
Joel, thank you. Talking livestock and regenerative farming in today's featured audio, coming up next on the Ohio AgNet. Hey farmers, planting season is almost here, and Ohio AgNet wants to bring lunch to your farm. Our Feeding Farmers contest is going statewide, and we'll soon be picking farms across Ohio to receive a visit from the Ohio AgNet and free lunch for your farm family and crew. If you'd like us to stop by, get signed up today. Just visit ohioagnet.com/feedingfarmers to enter. Feeding Farmers is brought to you by Ag Revolution, Paradise Energy Solutions, and the Ohio AgNet. The voice you know with the news you trust.
Every bushel you grow needs a market. That's why the Ohio Soybean Council is working to expand demand for Ohio soybeans around the world. Your checkoff supports international outreach, trade team visits, and putting Ohio soy in front of global buyers. By showcasing the quality, reliability, and value of Ohio soybeans, you can count on new opportunities and increased demand today and into the future. Visit soyohio.org to see all the ways your Ohio soybean checkoff is at work, expanding markets for your beans.
Welcome back to the Ohio AgNet. I'm Ty Higgins. The use of livestock in regenerative farming. That's the topic of conversation in today's featured audio. Here's Dusty Sonnenberg.
Joining me today is Brett Margroff. Brett is from Seneca County, a farmer there, and you shared today about an important part of regenerative farming, and that is the incorporation of livestock, something we don't see a whole lot of, especially in western and the northern part of Ohio, but something that is really key to taking it to that next level. Tell us a little bit about your journey, how you got there, because it's really a whole nother management on top of just the traditional no-till, cover crops, and other aspects of it.
Yeah, well, we've always planted a lot of cover crops for 25, 30 years. And, every spring we're out there terminating all these, grasses and legumes and, which in the eyes of a cattleman are forages.
Right.
And it wasn't so much that the termination was the issue. It's just like, in a way, it seemed like we were wasting something. And so I just kind of started looking into, which ones would be beneficial as forages. And I'm like, wow, we're not too far away from some of our mixes of being a pretty decent forage. And then, a short time after that, when I started thinking about it, and then also thinking about that fifth component of, what we used to call soil health, now, regenerative agriculture, which is adding the animals. I got to take a trip up north to North Dakota, and it was through the office at Soil and Water. We had a grant that we had done some back and forth with other agencies, and I said, sure, I'll go. And it was quite an eye-opening experience, because those folks up there, the cattle are a lot bigger deal to the operation than what they are around here. When you talk about a farm up there, they assume you're talking about cattle. When you talk about a farm here, you're assuming corn and beans.
Right.
And, of course, Gabe Brown's ranch was one place we got to spend a day and a half, as well as the Minokan Farm, which is Burleigh County's Soil and Water Conservation District. It's their farm. They run it as a farm. They run animals. They own the animals. They market the animals. They do the whole gamut. We spent a couple days there with their presentation, and when I walked out of there, I said, this is going to happen. I didn't know how it was going to happen, but I just said it's going to happen, and I started sketching it out on the airplane ride home. And I think it was within like 2 to 3 weeks I had made the call and had the date planned to start fencing our first pasture, which meant I had to get that pasture ready to even put fence up because it really wasn't a pasture. It was just kind of being grown up, and we mowed it 3-4 times a year, and I thought, well, this is a waste of energy. I guess to go a little bit further back is I've never had cattle on the farm as long as I've been there. So I have no background in animals, any kind of livestock at all, but I'm like, that's what books are for. That's what YouTube is for, you know, and that's what meetings are for, and that's how I learned. And fortunately, I got the interest of the kids, and they said, yeah, this sounds cool, let's do it, and we just started.
Tell me a little bit about, I guess we'll start on the positive side, some of the successes you've seen.
Well, the first thing that we did was we fenced the home farm, which is about 100 acres, maybe closer to 80 tillable. Within the first several years, we noticed that the home farm, which is actually on a high ridge, was yielding, after a few years, was like our highest yielding, or very close to our highest yielding grain crop area. And I'm sure it had to do with what we've done in the past with plenty of cover crops, a little history of importing chicken litter as a manure and no-till, but I really think it was the effect of the cow out there that we started grazing cover crops. And so we've got a cow that's eating and biting the grass. You know, they always say that their saliva is some of the best bacteria that we can get on there, plus they're excreting everything from the backside. And so I think that was the first big noticeable thing was like, wow, our yields here at home are really doing well. So from there, we're like, how do we make this happen on more farm acres? And that's the driving force now is instead of chasing acres, we're chasing cows because we want more cows on more of our acres to try to get that benefit.
Again, my guest today is Brett Margriff. Brett, thanks for your work. Thanks for sharing, and keep up the good work.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Thank you, Dusty. Back with the markets and analysis after this on the Ohio AgNet.
Whether you're in the fields or on the farm, creating a safer work environment has never been easier. BWC's safety consulting services are included with your policy premiums and offer training and education for everyone in your farming operation. It's always the right time to make safety a priority. Visit bwc.ohio.gov or call 1-800-644-6292. The Ohio Bureau of Workers' Compensation, here to help you work safely.
If agriculture is your way of life, you need news you can count on. That's why Ohio farmers turn to Ohio's Country Journal, your source for the latest in crop updates, livestock insights, market trends, and the stories that celebrate country life across our state. Every issue keeps you informed, connected, and ready for what's next in Ohio agriculture. So don't miss a beat. Renew your subscription or sign up today at ocj.com/renew and grow with the publication built for Ohio farm families. That's ocj.com/renew.
Today's market analysis on the Ohio AgNet brought to you by Louis Dreyfus Company. Excited to bring a brand new soybean crush facility to Upper Sandusky. Learn more about marketing your soybeans with LDC at 574-566-2113. Here's Ryan Martin.
Grain markets were closed on Friday in observance of the Good Friday holiday, so there's a lot of uncertainty as to how we finish your Monday. A lot of headlines trying to be digested over the weekend, a weekend that had more, action in the Middle East, and we actually did see late last week grains start to disconnect from the surging energy prices. Will this be the week that fundamentals come back in how we determine our prices? I guess I wouldn't get too super excited about that, but we are now moving into the month of April where we start to see more planting progress be talked about. In the Eastern Corn Belt, it's been so doggone wet over the past week that most are thinking planting progress here doesn't get underway until we get later this month or even into May. A lot of water in Michigan, Indiana, Ohio, even parts of Illinois, slowing the process of getting started. I'm Ryan Martin.
Thank you, Ryan. Let's get a check of the latest market numbers brought to you by Seed Consultants, simply better performance. Online at seedconsultants.com. Corn for May down 2 1/4 at $4.49 3/4. July corn $4.61 1/4. That's down 2 cents in the overnight trade. Soybeans for May $1 3/4 to the downside at $11.61 a bushel. July beans $11.77 3/4, off by $1.50. July wheat down 5 3/4 at 603 1/4. September 615 3/4 down by 5 3/4. The livestock markets were closed for Good Friday, but these are Thursday's closing prices. Live cattle for April 215 higher at 246.20. June 246.32 up by 197. Feeder cattle for May 262 higher at 370.62. April lean hogs down 57 points at 90.35. The May $96 even down 77 points. For the Ohio AgNet, I'm Ty Higgins. We'll see you down the road.